Okay, we are live. Welcome everyone to the Feeling Inspired podcast. I am your glorious host, Amit Sodha. Today got an amazing guest lined up. She's been through an incredible journey, and it was specifically more for that reason that I wanted to get her on, because I think sometimes we go through things and sometimes we feel like we're the only one. And so she's had quite an interesting journey over the last not only few months, but also prior to that as well. But her topic as well is personal power is always a choice. Now, that could potentially be a little bit controversial. So we'll do a deep dive into that. But for anyone who's joining for the first time, like I said, my name is Amit Sodha, and this is the Feel Inspired podcast. For me, this is all about helping people, maybe even just getting a moment of inspiration that helps them turn their life around. A few words, a simple reading of a book, a song, lyric, anything that has helped me feel inspired. I want to return that and give that to other people and create that experience for other people. So that's why we're here today as well. And if you're watching live, but you can't catch it, don't worry. The videos are going to be on all the platforms. You'll be able to catch it on Facebook, YouTube. And if you want to listen to it on your morning walk tomorrow as well, you can catch it on the Feel Inspired podcast on all the major platforms as well, once it's been uploaded. But in the meantime, I'd like to welcome today's wonderful guest. Her name is, now I hope I say the surname correctly as well. I forgot to check before we were chatting. But I'd like to welcome Omita Gaikwad.
Yes, well done, Amit.
Yeah, I said it right. I didn't want to say Gaikwad or something like that. Just like
you can imagine. Yeah, you can imagine. I've had all sorts all my life, so trust me, you did really well.
Oh, yay! Woohoo. Thank goodness for that. God, I think the last thing I want is to get slapped in the face in the first 5 minutes of a podcast. But virtual slap. So welcome anyway. Obviously your first time. This is episode 26. You're my guest number 26, and it's a pleasure to have you here. And like we said, we mentioned that the topic, of course, is personal power is always a choice, which I think some people will probably be in a position where they don't feel like that in any given moment. And so this is why I think it's such a fascinating subject. But before we do a deep dive, I would love to hear a little bit about you, who you are, how you've got to this point where you are today, your journey up until this point, and why you're doing what you're doing right now. So give us the lowdown.
Ooh, there's some powerful questions just in that in itself. Well, first of all, thank you so much for this honor and privilege to be able to share a bit about who I think I am at this moment in time in life. And also incredible gratitude to just, the universe for actually physically being here, given what I have been through. Honestly, I don't know how many blessings I've been able to experience to physically be alive, but not just that, more so be able to speak. At this moment in time, I am functioning with just one vocal cord. We have two vocal cords and I've just got one. And the clinicians recently, when I tell you a bit about why I'm here today, more so is that they've said that somehow my left vocal cord is miraculously overcompensating. So I don't even know how I can still flow with this kind of texture and sound. I can even still sing, and it's just such a blessing. So I am so humbled to be here today, very excited to be able to share what I feel are moments that, some experiences that might inspire others to, just hang in there. So yes, my name's Omita Gaikwad, well said previously. And I believe at this moment in time that, if I have to define myself as we do the way the world likes to see us and label myself, then like on your podcast flyer, it said I'm a holistic transformation coach, a speaker and an author. I think what I'd really like to say is that I'm a being aspiring to be positively powerful. That's what I feel sums me up. Yes, what's happened to me in the last couple of months is after a gap of 20 years, I found out that my thyroid cancer had come back. And I found this out last year in 2019. So I'm a single mom. So you can imagine just there in itself, you're a single parent. There's nobody else in the household. You've been the one who's basically doing A to Z for your child every day.
Clarify one thing as well. You said it'd come back, so I'd love to hear a little bit about the original episode as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So so I'll retract. Now that you've asked that, I'll track back. So I first got diagnosed with thyroid cancer at the age of 21 in September 1999. So I was pretty young when I had my first experience with cancer. And there as well, I think, and I was just coming to understand what spirituality is and the fact that there's more beyond the physical and the mechanical of life. And it became a bit of perhaps the beginning of my awakening, who knows? And my shift in perception of life at such a young age became different. And I think I started to become more and more isolated to those around me. But yeah, 22 years, 22, I'm trying to work out the maths there, about 22 years later, right? Today's not about maths, so let's not go there. About 22 years later, you wouldn't expect after such a gap of being in remission for something like this to creep up on you. But given what I've I don't know if I've consciously put my through it in life, but given what I have gone through in the last 20 years, I'm surprised, honestly, I am still standing. I've been a single mom for about for 14 years. So, and I've raised my daughter without an immediate support network. You know, when I went through my divorce and separation, I moved to a completely new city intentionally to have a brand new start in life. And it's hard enough as it is being a parent, right? Even when you have got a partner and etc. and whatnot, and then to do it on your own. Okay, so it was a bit of a challenge, and then to do it on your own when you're already a cancer patient and you've got you've got health issues, etc. It's even more challenging. But I wanted to zone in a little bit more and then in my first experience with cancer, because it was thyroid cancer, they removed my entire thyroid gland. So anytime you have neck surgery, there's always a risk to the vocal cords. So I was blessed then to still retain my voice. But last year, somehow again, I managed to detect a bit of a lump. Even when I previously had it 20 years ago, it was my late father who was an ENT, an ear, nose and throat surgeon. He somehow noticed it. So fortunately, I've always managed to pick this up early, when it comes to cancer. And you'll know, a lot of the awareness around cancer for individuals is, the earlier you can detect and pick it up, the more chances you have for survival. When I came to know last year that the cancer had come back, I won't lie, it was frightening, because the only thoughts that were racing through me, to be honest with you, is what's going to happen to my daughter. Because when you're the one who's holding the fort in every sense, there's so much more, isn't it, that you feel that you have to actually cope with and deal for. So last year I had surgery in December. So that was December 2019. And it was thyroid cancer in the same area, same part of my body, and in the lymph nodes on the left side. So they did a bit of surgery in December, took those lymph nodes out, and then said, okay, in a couple of months' time, what you're going to have is called radioiodine treatment. That's usually the course for this type of cancer. I had the radioiodine in March. That's when we're just about went into lockdown with COVID. So I had that treatment. And then once I had the treatment, because of COVID, literally as soon as I came out, I had to remain in isolation anyway. There was no further communication or post-treatment consultations with clinicians to know what the outcome was of my treatment. And because of COVID and everything, basically everything had shut down. There was no appointments, no dialogue, whatever it is. In those couple of months, sort of April, May, June, I honestly had a gut feeling that something just wasn't right, okay? And I noticed that there was another lump, a small lump in the area where I'd had my surgery and I'd had the treatment. And the doctors were very confident that with that radioiodine and the surgery, everything will be removed. In August, because I actually do some work and interim work with the NHS, I'm really mindful of the pressures that the system are under, and the workforce and staff. And I thought, you know what, when they're ready, they'll probably get back in touch with patients to get follow-up appointments. Something told me in August, I need to get in touch. So I got in touch with the oncology department at the hospital, got in touch with my GP. And then, do you know what, I nudged and prodded at some of the people in my care. And I said to them that this is what's happening. Literally within 4 weeks, it was done so quickly after test after test after test. And then they confirmed, yes, the cancer has come back again. So the treatment hadn't worked, the surgery, obviously, with the treatment. So you can imagine then it's like, okay, this is quite a short time frame for this to have come back. And basically they said, you need to go in for surgery urgently. We're amidst COVID at the moment. My daughter and I living on our own. So I would probably say it was the most frightening time I've ever been through, because my daughter had to go through this alone. When I was being wheeled into my surgery, I honestly didn't know if I was going to come out. I didn't know because the size of the surgery this time was big. It was just under 6 hours of surgery. This time they said, because it's come back so quickly, we're going to actually remove all of the lymph glands on the left side of your neck. So I basically had an operation from the back of my ear right down to the middle of my throat. So it's a nice incision. Someone's like hacked away at my neck. And because of the risks of nerve damage to the shoulder, to your vocal cords, to so many nerves, there's so much that goes on in that side of the body. honestly, to be here, to be able to still feel my shoulder, to still talk, this, honestly, it's a miracle. It's just a miracle. And I think that the thing that I just was so humbled that you invited me to come here today is that I want to share so much to people that, you know what, faith truly finds a way. When you trust and believe that, you know, you're here for a purpose, that purpose just, it becomes more and more evident, regardless of what challenges and what situations you go through. So I'm going to kind of pause there, because you look like you've got a look on your face, Amit, where you want to ask me a question. So I'm going to pause and then let you ask me a question.
Well, probably like 100 questions, I think, more than anything. But I mean, that's just incredible. And I think what struck me most is the fact that after all of that, you're here today. This wasn't that long ago, and you're here today speaking.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And not only that, you are smiling, right? And I think that this is the point that we're talking about, which is obviously personal power being a choice, that you can easily be so miserable and think, bugger the world, you know what I mean? Like, you know, with everything going on, you know, life is so unfair, but here you are. And I think that is phenomenal. So feel free to tell us more. And I've got loads of questions for you anyway, but I'm just intrigued by this whole story.
Yeah, I mean, even before I had this, like I said, 20 years ago when I had cancer, and I was just immensely grateful, you know, that I was still alive then. And I've always been a person that when I wake up every day is a gift. But more so, I didn't realize, I thought I was a grateful person. But honestly, do you know what? When we talk about personal growth and personal transformation, it is an endless journey. There, you know, you can never become more grateful for what you have. It's like honestly, it's an endless well. And the depth that you can go within yourselves, honestly, I feel so much more alive, if anything, and not that on a wider or bigger context, just with every moment, you know, just so much perspective is driven into your everyday thinking of what's going on around you, what you have, who you are, what you're doing. You know, things just get refined without you having to put effort into it. And the irony is, to be honest with you, when I was a kid at school, I can share this. Although I used to, you know, to keep dad happy, you know, I used to like always want to be top of the class, etc. You know, do really well, be a bit of a swot. And the teachers, when my dad used to go for parents' evening, would always say, you know, yeah, she's top of the class, but she likes to talk. So when my parents would come home, you know, I'd sit there, I'd be really nervous, thinking, you know, what did they say, etc. And then my dad would have this serious kind of look on his face, saying, yeah, but you know, instead of focusing on the good, he'd focus on, but they said you talk a lot. You know, and the amount of times I was criticized for the sound of my voice or that I talk a lot, I think deep down I've probably attracted all of this stuff, because I used to say to myself, you know, one day it's going to be my voice that changes this world. It's going to be my voice that makes a real difference. And honestly, I feel as if like life has told me it is your voice that is your purpose now. So being able to talk now, and the fact that, you know, everybody's circumstances, you know, going digital, you know, being accessible to people and information is there at the forefront, isn't it? And I think, like you said, I mean, what you're doing, hats off to what you're doing, you know, putting that effort there, putting that energy into creating these moments of raw interaction is just such an offering. And, you know, and please just keep going and keep doing what you're doing. I know I've diverted a bit there, but I had to get that in.
No, that's all right. Good. Yeah, good. Free. That's like free plugging for me, so I won't say no.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
I love it. I love it. That's just phenomenal. Like, I mean, what you have been through, the journey up until now, and yet here you are, not only going through your own battles, but you know, still continuing to help other people fill their cup, you know, empower other people, help them on their journey. And, you know, I see it with all the stuff that you put out on LinkedIn and other platforms, and it's wonderful what you're doing. And so let's kind of talk a little bit about this whole concept of, in fact, let me ask you this. Let me start with this. Yeah. So you said, all right, personal power is always a choice. What does that mean? What made you decide to come up with that as the topic for today?
It's a transformation that has played a significant role in my life. Today, yes, I'm here, like you said, with a big smile on my face, feeling all positive and having this conviction that, you know, honestly, how you choose to respond to situations in life is what's going to make things happen for you. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I was not that individual. I would have been overwhelmed by emotions. I was incredibly sensitive. I was incredibly pained by other people's opinions, by situations. Yes, I had strength in me. Obviously, there was a resilience and courage that was within me ever since I was a child, due to, how I was raised, etc., and circumstances. But there was times where I didn't feel that personal power was a choice. So many things affect this, isn't it? Like I was just saying, how we're raised, how we're conditioned, by our loved ones, our nearest, our dearest, then there's society, then there's school. Someone somewhere is always ready to tell you who to be, how to be, isn't it? What to say, what to do, how to look, etc. And it gets to a point, where you really you just want you want permission. And then you look externally, perhaps sometimes, permission to just be, to wear what you want to wear, say what you want to say, feel how you want to feel, and to know it's okay. And I got to a point where, and I can't remember which challenging experience it was. I mean, when I went through my divorce was one thing, and then I've been through debt because my late father became ill and he passed away, and I was just exhausted by everything. Yes, I like you said, I've always been an aspiring social philanthropist ever since a young age. I've always wanted to help and heal and uplift the world, but at what cost? And all these situations just constantly made me feel that, I have to be up to a certain standard, or I have to do a certain thing to feel that I belong. I didn't realize that I had the choice to want to feel how I wanted to feel whenever I wanted to. Until, like you said, I got to a point where I thought enough is enough. I realized that I deserve more than this. And you know what? That's something that I really want to share today. Most things stem from our own awareness of our level of worth in life. Honestly, how much do we believe that we deserve happiness? How much do we believe that we deserve, whether it's wealth, abundance, or health? It comes down to that simple fact. How deserving do we honestly feel we are? And I did the work then. When that little, that sensation or that moment came and I realized I wanted things to change, somehow, somewhere, a book turned up, or a conversation happened with somebody. This is like parallel to The Secret, isn't it? I know you're a big advocate of the law of attraction as well. And honestly, I could say I could make a film about, about it as well. But and I just suddenly started to attract the right information. I read, I played with it, I experimented because I needed to know. I had to believe in these techniques and information. Were they shifting how I was feeling about life? Was I starting to realize that, I can influence and control how things happen? And literally, that's when things started to pivot and shift. And I can say this, I'm not somebody who earns, 6 figures, 7 figures in life, but I feel like one of the richest human beings around. I couldn't feel more richer, more saturated, and more satisfied, despite everything that's going on at the moment. I mean, I know there's a lot of challenges for everyone. We can't even say now that some people have it good and some people have it hard. We're all going through challenge, aren't we, because of COVID and whatnot. The whole world is like you said, we can all suddenly share some common empathy because we're all going through it. And this is why I want to say personal power, honestly, is a choice in any moment, under any circumstances.
But Amita, no, my circumstances are different. You don't know what I'm going through. You don't know what challenges I'm having. My life is different. You're not in my shoes. You don't know what's going on in my world. That's obviously a lot of what I hear from people. And what do you say to someone who's in that place, in that space? For them, the furthest thing from their mind is that, what they're going through is a choice. What do you say to someone like that who's going through something like that, or going through just a very difficult time?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Each of us have our own perception, right, of the circumstances that we're in. So like you just said, so somebody might feel that, that what their immediate challenges are they're just too difficult, they're too tough, and that feeling frustrated or feeling anger is right and justified for that moment in time. For me, to be honest with you, there's always something that you can be grateful for. The fact that that individual is able to express to me how they're feeling, I would present to them the opportunity, but aren't you fortunate to be able to speak to me and tell me that you actually are feeling the way you're feeling? Aren't you fortunate to be able to feel those emotions and that you actually have sensation in your human body at that moment? Aren't you fortunate to be breathing, to actually be experiencing this situation, to know that it's something that you don't want and that, do you know what, I want something better than this. So I when I interact or come across individuals who feel they're going through difficult times, I don't disregard or say to them that your circumstances are not significant, because everybody's circumstance and challenge is uniquely significant to them, isn't it? It's absolutely appropriate for them in their own personal journey. But how you want to intensify that is up to you. Whether you want to make it more feel more painful or more joyful is up to you, by shifting your perception and focusing on what you are blessed with as opposed to what you have lack of.
Yeah, that's a beautiful sentiment there. And like you said, right, this is not to disregard anyone who's going through a tough time. Because I remember for me, one of my many toughest times was at least when I felt most powerless, was when I was in debt. Like for me was just the time even though I would say that I've been through more painful times, but that was the moment where I felt most powerless. And that is the moment, I would say, where, that whole idea, the concept that I can choose to change things is at its absolute lowest. And so I know what it's like, and I've been there. And with everything that you've been through as well, I mean, everything that you're going through right now, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, just for a second, everyone just take a moment. I know you might have heard this in the beginning, but let's reiterate this. This woman was in hospital. How long ago was it? Actually, it wasn't that long ago, right?
No, the operation was on the 15th of October, so just a month ago.
So she was in a hospital, but in surgery, a month ago, not even sure if she was going to be leaving that room. And to look at her right now, you would have absolutely, if we didn't say it, you would not have the faintest idea that she's been through this. And, I mean, come on, I know I give my example, but to be in a position where you're not even sure if you're going to be leaving with your life, I mean, that's pretty as out of control as it can possibly get. But, talk me through, let's talk about some of the processes that you went through when you were going wheeled into that place. Like, what were you doing? What were you telling yourself? How were you changing your state? How were you changing your self-talk? What were you telling yourself? What were you doing specifically?
Okay, so I actually had 2 weeks from when it was confirmed by the clinicians that, the cancer has come back, you're going to have surgery. And because they wanted to get done quite quickly. So I had a 2-week window to prepare my mindset for the surgery and for what was about to come. With life's blessings and with the path that I've actually lived, I've managed to equip myself with some tools where I'm able to shift my perception straight away to a relatively positive one. But the one thing that I didn't realize until now, because of this situation, was just how effortlessly now I'm able to actually transition from being in a state of fear or frustration to then quickly transitioning to a state of positivity and calmness. And this situation that happened, a month ago, I know this sounds crazy, but some people say to me, Amita, you were actually excited, weren't you? I won't lie to you, Amit. My daughter and I, what we went through in the last month, there was this side where you can focus on what you went through so much, didn't you? But you know what? The amount of giggling and excitement we had in ourselves, because what we prepared ourselves is that, you know what? Something really phenomenal is about to happen. We're not going through this for no reason. We're going to come out of this so much more stronger. We're going to come out of this so much more aligned to meaning and gratitude that, life can only be phenomenally more blissful. And that's what we chose to consciously think of the 2 weeks before. So what I normally do on a daily basis is I ensure, to manage stress levels and to keep myself relaxed, because obviously you can appreciate for surgery, when the body is stressed and tense, you're actually minimizing, again, your chances for the surgery to do well and for the body to be able to do what it needs to do. So I do things like meditation, visualization, yoga, walking. I love being in nature. I'm very mindful of my diet, in terms of nutrition. And I do feed myself with information that's positive, but I've kind of also transitioned away from just that. Once upon a time where I needed to make sure that I was thinking positive and feeling positive, I was, like you said, I was drilling in, reading positive information, listening to positive music. But you know what? Then it becomes as if like I'm externally dependent on some kind of resource to stay positive. Then I realized, no, hang on a minute. I don't want to know I have to do something to feel positive. I just want to know that I'm feeling positive regardless of what's going on. And this last month's experience allowed me to realize that. So I'm so grateful for the situation, because I felt as if it was a self-checkpoint for me to see just how much I've grown as an individual, for me to put into practice all the tools and techniques that I felt I've learned and that I'm sharing with clients, etc. So so I informed myself that what's about to happen it's a huge opportunity for growth. What's about to happen it's a blessing to become more aligned to perhaps my purpose, which is, I mean, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you if I hadn't have gone through what I'd gone through a month ago, because I felt even more aligned, and grateful that my voice is so precious to me, and I have to make sure I use it, to uplift and inspire others. So I wouldn't have been here if I didn't channel to that sort of mindset. So that's kind of the stuff that I did beforehand. I just really allowed the situation to sink in. I reminded myself that if I choose to feel more fear, I will experience that state. And I asked myself, what do I want to feel? And I would just say to myself, I want to feel calm, I want to feel ease, and I want to feel powerful. And do you know what? It's how it happened. Surgery happened really smoothly. Recovery touch wood, is happening as smoothly as it can. My daughter, I mean, literally though, before I got wheeled in, I won't lie to you, I didn't know, when the anaesthetist said to me, I didn't realize I would be in surgery for up to 6 hours. I didn't realize I knew it was a big op. And because my daughter was staying alone, when I was getting wheeled in, when they said 6 hours, the only thing, because I'm a mother at the end of the day, before I'm a woman and a human being, I'm first a mother. That's how I see life. And honestly, all I did was I took a deep breath and I just said to the universe, I said, I completely surrender and put trust into you. I know you will take care. And that's what I did.
That's beautiful. I was talking a little bit about this yesterday, the power of surrender, right? Because ultimately we don't control the outcome. We can still have faith in the outcome, but we don't control it, and let it go, and just let it go. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Ultimately, at the end of the day. By the way, hi Inderjit, thanks for your comments as well. Amit surely knows how to bring the best out by his brilliant questions. Thank you very much as well.
Yes, definitely.
And my compliments, Omita. This is Inderjit as well. He wanted to say hello, but
Hello.
it's interesting, right? So a little story for you. So earlier towards the latter part of summer, I ended up with a problem with my throat, and it was affecting my voice. It was affecting my speaking. I was doing my coaching workshops and so on and so forth, and I was doing a lot. I'd ramped it up hugely at this point, and my throat was like closing up, and I could get to the certain sessions by the end of the day, and I could barely speak. And it would, it's making me feel nauseous as well. It was not a very nice experience. Well, I wouldn't say it was painful or anything, but it was just not a very nice experience. Never got to the bottom of what it was, but ultimately, I kind of just sort of surrendered a little bit, and I had a big workshop planned. I think it was the 1st of November, and when I had scheduled it in, my voice was still just as bad, and the thought did cross my mind that what am I going to do if my voice, if I struggle with my voice that day. And I thought to myself, actually, no, I don't need to worry about things like that. I will make it through. I regardless of what happens, I will always find a way to power through. So no matter, I have this mantra I teach people, for me in order to teach surrender, which is just, no matter the outcome, I'll be happy. No matter the outcome, I'll be happy.
Absolutely.
And literally about a week before that workshop, that the problem kind of more or less disappeared, and it's completely gone now, and I'm completely fine. But it's interesting, these things do come along, I feel, to I hate to use this phrase sometimes, but I think it's the closest we have in the English language to teach us lessons, to be able to show us, what it is we need to look at, we can address, we can work on in our lives, the way we can grow. And so for me, it was that, and I thought that was like a quite nice story. And when you were talking about obviously your throat, your voice, the fact that you're still able to speak, considering. I think, I don't know if you've had Tony Robbins speak recently. He speaks with a very gruff voice. He was sharing a story once of how he went into hospital, and they were looking at his vocal cords, and they were saying that his vocal cords are so worn out. The fact that he's actually speaking right now is beyond miraculous.
Exactly.
Yeah, and yeah, he
Absolutely.
can, and how much speaking he does, right? 50 hours.
Absolutely.
So it goes
Absolutely.
to show what's possible when you believe and you have faith and you realize that actually you do have this personal power. What's actually
Yes,
possible? Uh,
absolutely.
and so yeah, so I think this is an amazing thing. Your story is absolutely phenomenal. So tell us a
But
little bit more about.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, please. No, please
No, I
do.
was going to say, what you touched on though is also important. I mean, there's one thing that you said is like, we managed to sail through the storm, etc. But, why did that storm arise in the first place? So for me, when I was reflecting, etc., when I believe the body is unwell, clearly our inner voice perhaps is trying to communicate to us, our soul, our inner voice, and maybe we're not listening, and then it knocks through the body, and then the body creates something where it suddenly says, okay, you need to give attention to something a little bit more here. So I honestly took it that, once I found out that this is going on in the body, I talk to my body, I talk to myself a lot in the day. And I've learned to have really nurturing conversations with myself. And that's a conscious shift I've been making. In this last month, one sort of through my affirmations, I know a lot of people talk about affirmations, but one thing I learned when we bring affirmations into sort of personal transformations is ensure those affirmations are actually believable at that moment in time. So many times when I first came to learn about, it's good to use big words, powerful words, say big statements, but you could say them with conviction, you could think them with conviction, but if you truly don't believe them, you're not going to allow that full impact to happen. So some natural affirmations that have just sort of evolved over the last month is, I've started saying to my body that, what, I am truly going to cherish you. I wasn't comfortable in probably giving myself that much love and attention before. I was shifting towards loving myself more, but now I'm just like, what? I say to my body, I said, you're just so good. I'm a goody putty, literally I'm giving myself so much love and attention now because my body is asking for it. It's saying, what? Yes, you give all the time, but just how much are you going to give to you? How much are you going to give to yourself? That's been a big lesson for me, more so recently. And you're absolutely right. We need to sort of become aware of where the growth and the lessons are. And then it's our conscious choice, though, isn't it, as to whether we want to do anything with that learning. Many times different situations will come is because we just haven't learned from the lesson, have we, fully, and it's representing itself for a number of reasons. So for me, the lesson was maybe I still got a lot more self-love to give to myself. And I'm really comfortable to give it to myself now. I'm very, very guilt-free in giving it to myself. And I think that's something I'd love to share with everybody out there. You are precious and you are allowed to love yourself whenever you need to. You don't even have to, you can take a self-love break wherever you want in the day, and I think, again, we don't do it enough, do we? And I think now because everything's so digital, we find it's even harder to factor in a break or time to switch off because there's just so much speed in accessibility of everything that's going on that we're probably not giving ourselves as much break. So yeah, I want everybody who's listening today to just give themselves a big, big hug and just say, what, I love me. Even if they just do that today, I'll be really satisfied.
Funny enough, a memory popped up on my Facebook today, and I put up a really nice post on Facebook last year, and the message was quite similar in terms of this whole pace of life we live in right now. And I'm 100% guilty of it. Just ask my wife who sits next to me in our office at home, right? Honey, don't talk to me right now. I've got 7 zillion WhatsApps to reply to. Right, we all get into that mode from time to time, but then obviously we have to remind ourselves, look, what, it's not that important. We can get to it later. It's still going to be there in an hour. It's still gonna. Don't worry, it's not going anywhere. No one's going to die. Nothing's going to happen if I don't respond for half an hour. But what I also said was that it's interesting in this pace. There's so many more messages, platforms, more social media, WhatsApp. Oh my God! You could just literally drive yourself crazy with all the platforms.
You could.
But even if you just, as an individual, took 15 minutes a week to make sure you put that in your calendar, schedule it out. That's your time. That's your self-love time. And when we say self-love, people, we mean spiritual self-love. But that is your time. That is your time for you. That is your time to recharge yourself and just give yourself a bit of a break from everything going on. And it's so important, is it? And like you said, right, you give yourself a hug, show yourself some love when you need it. And I say this a lot to people as well. I'm coaching. How often do you praise your friends and your family? You say nice things to them. How often do you say them to yourself?
Absolutely, absolutely,
Truth is very much for many people, so rare.
And I know we're talking about mindset like today, and there's, like you said, it's confidence and faith in situations, you know, is part of stepping into your personal power. But one on the other side, on the practical side of it, you know, most of my challenges have, not all of them, but have been related to my physical health. But stress is a huge contributory factor, right, to our well-being. And pretty much a lot of us are are experiencing some levels of stress, you know, in everyday life. Some, you know, their levels are pretty high. And for some, it's consistent and chronic stress, which can lead to illnesses and disease. And I think one thing I'd consciously want to share with everybody is, yes, you know, I have worked on myself for a number of years now to sort of create this way of thinking in life, this mindset where I have managed to widen my lens of perception. And in any given situation, I'm pretty swiftly able to flip it to make myself believe that there is a positive, and I will actively seek out the positive in that moment. But at the flip side of it, the physical body also needs to be equipped to allow our mind to think clearly and to think good thoughts. And this comes down to moving your body, giving your body, like you said, rest. You know, a lot of people have this understanding that, you know, oh, but I sleep. You know, I go to bed at night and I sleep. I'm resting my body. Our brains, okay, are not resting when we sleep. Our brains, our physical body may be, you know, we might be asleep, you know, and our bodies may be lying still, but the brain is still working right through right through the night, churning out the information that we have intentionally put inside. And without our brain functioning well, we can't actually have the experiences that we have. So the time where we're actually giving our brain rest is when we are consciously relaxing. So that's why people say meditation is such a big tool, isn't it? Because it helps us slow the pace of our thoughts down. It helps us focus onto one thing. Some people say going for a walk, or people find doing art or anything where you're so in sync and in the flow, aren't you? Where you just feel completely relaxed. That is actually giving your brain a break. So yes, please consciously give yourselves time to enter a relaxed state. That's when you're minimizing stress levels on your body and preventing, you know, illnesses and diseases and stuff to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Indigit is asking, he said, Amita, you have convention intelligence, lots of emotional intelligence. What next?
You know, Indigit, I don't know. I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to suggestions. Absolutely.
I think Amita will be astral projecting at the end of this video as well, showing us how it's done. We'll see her astral body next to her there as well. We'll be seeing we'll see her journey to different spiritual realms. And
that's a topic for another podcast, isn't it? Because I've had some nice woo-woo experiences in my life, and I do play around with the other dimensions, but yeah, that's for another day.
Definitely another day, yeah, absolutely. Yes. But there we go. So what I was going to ask you was, like, obviously doing what you do, I'm sure you get lots of people coming to you with a variety of challenges, you know, when you're coaching people, helping people, healing people. So what are you finding right now as well, especially with everything going on, are the biggest challenges and some of your answers to those biggest challenges?
I'd say the majority, or the most common topic at the moment with people that I'm interacting with is there's a slight lull in people's happiness and joy. A lot of people are feeling low. And there's a number of factors to that. Because of what we've had to all intensely go through, we've all gone through immense change over the last 6 months, right? Because of changes that have been made in society and the community because of COVID, perhaps personal circumstances. I mean, some have probably gone through more extreme because of, like you say, their jobs and the employment sector. And there has been a huge amount of activity and adjustment that we've all had to make. So there is a common level of exhaustion that we're all experiencing now. A lot of people now, you know, like in this second lockdown, saying, I'm really, really struggling now in this second lockdown. So although we've got more awareness that it's okay in a lockdown, we know how to maneuver it and get through it. We honestly have mentally exhausted ourselves a lot because we've been thinking, you know, what is going to become, or, you know, because of what's happened. And then there's also that dullness now, is because, is this how things are going to be? Now, I'm somebody, Amit, who consciously does not watch the news. I don't consciously read the newspapers. I don't allow that information to enter my mind, because I know I'm going to come to know about it when I need to know about it. If there's a restriction in place, I'm going to find out about it, right? And that has probably been the most common factor, whether it's been somebody who's an established entrepreneur, you know, and money is not an issue, or whether it's somebody who's financially struggling at the moment. both these clientele are feeling really low. And I've realized, and most people, when they're coming to me, they're saying, Amita, it's your positivity, it's your energy that is actually keeping us going, or that's helping us feel energized. One thing I want to say here, and I don't know if you probably echo these thoughts too. If somebody's a coach, or somebody comes in saying they're a mentor or coach, from what I like to reassure clients and individuals are, there is no hierarchy, there is no superior power, there is no extra oomph in a coach that a client doesn't have. We all have access to the same energy, right? All that it is if I use an example, say we're all cruise ships, okay? And say you're your cruise ship, but you know what it is? You've got a bit of stuck. You're a little bit stuck, and you're trying to go off on your journey. A little tugboat, and a coach could be seen as a tugboat, comes along and gives you a bit of a nudge and helps you set off on your journey. That tugboat wasn't any bigger or more well equipped or superior looking, isn't it, or exquisite than the cruise ship. And that's one thing immediately when I'm interacting with my clients, is that is to minimize that association that somebody is coming along that has more than them or is more than them, in order for them to feel, because that shift then doesn't happen. So yeah, happiness and mood has been one common factor, and breaking down some of those barriers that someone else actually has more than somebody else. All that it is that I consciously have managed to tap into positive energy because I'm focusing on it. I'm just choosing to focus it. It's like what you said, whatever you feed, you experience more of, right? And I'm sure you agree with that, Amit, don't you?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, like go back to what you initially said as well. Like you had, I hardly watch the news. If at all, I may occasionally skim the headlines just to keep abreast of what's going on. But like you said, right, we're going to find out about most things anyway.
Exactly.
But we don't realize just how much. I don't know if you've ever read or ever came across the book Influence: The Power of Persuasion.
No.
It's a really, do you know what? It's a really fascinating book, and like there's a section in there for me which I think to myself, why does the whole world not know this? And there's something called the word. I hope I pronounce it correctly. The Werther principle. I don't know if you've ever come across that, right? So basically, what it was saying was that there was a study done back in the 70s and 80s, which showed that whenever there was a high-profile suicide that was publicized on in a national paper. Not only was then that publicized, but the number of suicides would also go up the following week. But also, interestingly enough, there was more likely to be plane crashes. There was more likely to be car crashes. So these suicides were having a massive knock-on effect on society. And you think, I mean, even if you just take that at face value for a second and think about all the negativity that's fed to us, imagine the impact it's having on us and society as a whole. It's incredible if you really think about it. Like, this is why I think to myself, that was the first time I came across that when I was listening to that book this week. Why do more people not know this and understand it? Why isn't this taught to us at school, so we understand that there is a collective consciousness impact that is having on us. So absolutely, 100% agree with what you said. And like, we all have our moments, don't we? I think, but and again, there's no hierarchy there and stuff. But for me, it's the process of the fact that these are the things that we've habituated in ourselves, and you can habituate yourself out of it, and that's what it is. I was in the same boat. I was habituated to be depressed at one point in my life, but I've changed that now to be habituated to feel good.
Exactly. And I think that's the other thing, that it's not about, like I said, when we go through, and we're using these words, aren't we? When we go through challenging or adverse times, it's also the fact that if you go through life just constantly feeling calm or content or whatever you want to call it, you're not living, are you? It's only, like, say, for instance, if it's a rainy day, like it's really, really wet and rainy, it's only until the sun comes out and the dryness comes where you're able to see the difference in the season and experience the warmth and know that, when the rain came, it was a different sensation when the sun was shining. You need these situations. You need that contrast to actually drive forth the clarity of what you really want. Sometimes it's in the really crappiest of times where I've realized, do you know what? I don't want to feel this. I want to feel that. And it just propels you, isn't it, more in the direction of where you want to go. And you touched on one topic, but again, that's probably for another day, is about schools and mindset. And this is someone who's a parent of a child in the system. And my daughter is fortunate enough that she feels she's been able to navigate school as a teenager and not feel overwhelmed by mental health issues and peer pressures and stress, etc., because I've probably perhaps conditioned and nurtured her, towards having a good resilience mindset. But if she hadn't have had that input, she would have really struggled, like you said, because it's not a priority, isn't it? Personal wellness and the ability to adapt and be resilient is not there in schools. But I'm sure the education system has to start rethinking, how, the curriculum is pulled together now, looking at what we're going through, isn't it? If you can't adapt and get through tough times, you're just going to struggle, aren't you? So yeah, that is an interesting topic, but for another day, Amit, isn't it?
Yeah, no, but it's so true. Like I had this conversation with someone the other day as well. We were talking about this, the impact it does have on our youngsters, and the ripple effect it's having on our youngsters now, even more so as well. So this is why it's even more important now to get this right, so that our kids aren't permanently scarred by what's going on right now. So you're right. It's a topic for another day, and we'll definitely cover it another day, I think, as well. But it's so important. But going back to what I asked before as well, like just following on from the question I asked about, what the challenges you're seeing that most people are having, a lot of people are having, what you're saying to people. So what's your kind of your best toolkit to provide to people? What's your kind of your go-to, your what should we say, your dead cert tools that work in helping people causing the most shift, or causing a magnitude or shift that enables them to sort of have an immediate change?
Yeah, I mean, 3 really, really, really simple tools, which anybody, you don't have to have a belief in a certain way of thinking and acting, etc. Is 1, hydrate yourself with water. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water, because when the physical body isn't hydrated, it affects our cognitive abilities, it affects our energy levels. When you're just naturally feeling low, have you got a water bottle? Yeah, and I'm drinking my water too. Yeah, look, we're advocates of H2O, everybody. When that is just a really simple component, that when our hydration levels are correct, we just naturally we can access better mood. So that's the first thing I'll say. Second thing I'll say is getting some fresh air. So I know, with lockdown, a lot of people are quite fearful, isn't it, as to what activities they can and can't do. I know the government is even saying that, you can take exercise, but you don't have to be going out and doing like a 5K jog when people say go out, get fresh and whatnot. Just literally stepping out, even looking up at this, just taking some deep breaths, really breathe, becoming aware of your breathing, making sure that as you breathe in and you breathe out, you're really feeling that air going in your body and coming out, and just taking a moment, allowing some of that oxygen to get inside your body. If you're feeling that you want to brave it a bit more, you can go for a walk, you can extend that time in nature. And those who are pretty aligned to, go for your jog or whatnot, but getting some fresh oxygen and exposing yourself to a little bit of the outdoors is great in keeping that mood, balanced. If not, I'm not saying that you're going to be feeling on top of the world, but it's just giving yourself that momentary respite from stresses and from toxic, from pollutants, etc. We toxicate ourselves from so many angles. We toxicate ourselves with the food we eat, with the information we expose ourselves to, devices, our environments, whether we're getting natural exposure to natural environments or not. There's so many ways that we're toxicating ourselves that we actually don't allow ourselves to detox fully. So these are quick hacks, for detoxing and allowing good mood to flow. So 1 is water, 2 is in nature, and 3 is do something where you don't feel you have to do it, but you actually feel good doing it. So anything. And the reason why I'm saying this, I could pick quite a few things, is that, again, we're not, because of how many things we're having to adjust and deal with at home, we're spending a lot of time in the same environment, isn't it? In our home. Some people might have a tiny home. Some people might be sharing a home with so many people. Everybody's circumstance at home is different right now, isn't it? But in that day, just do something. If you do like singing, sing a couple of lines in the day. If you do like drawing, doodle, If you do like cooking, just go in the kitchen and actually say, and just cook something different. Just do something tiny that makes you feel good. And even if you just factor those 3 things into your day, trust me, it will give you a mini shift straight away. It's not going to cost you anything. It's not going to take out a huge amount of time in your day. Literally, you could even put a minute to each of them, couldn't you? So within 3 minutes, you've made a difference. So that's my 3 little hacks for today.
Yeah, I think they're beautiful hacks. And the last one as well, it's interesting, right? We normally hear about, that our phones and devices are bad distractions and things like that. We always tend to demonize certain things, right? And then there was an article I saw the other day about actually gaming can be quite good for you. They always do this, right? Gaming's terrible for you. 6 months later, gaming's good for you, right? And all this kind of stuff. You always hear these contradictory things that
Exactly.
yeah. And like for a while, my wife and I were learning. I mean, I always say to people, right? I said it on the last podcast. I'm going to say it again. That like when people say to me, "I'm bored," I'm like, "You've got infinite knowledge and technology and access to things on one of these things, right? If you really want to put your mind, I mean, I do all my content on these things. I learn languages. I track my exercise. I learn things. I listen to books on it. I mean, like for me, it's just a phenomenal piece of technology. I don't necessarily rely on it.
Amit, when you talk about your wife, are you talking about your phone then? You just need to say you live with your phone, don't you, Amit? Just confess it. I jog with it. I eat with it. I read with it.
My wife and I have this funny joke. She says to me as well. She goes, "One of these days when you're doing this, she goes, your thumb's going to fall off. I'm telling you."
Bless. Oh, bless. But you're absolutely right. This is the thing. It's not about, everybody's always going to want to tell you. Someone's always going to tell you what's right for you or who you should be. But you know what? You're the only one who knows what feels good for you in that moment in time. And whether it could be, like I said, it could be sitting on and doing a bit of gaming for 5 or 10 minutes. But it's about balance and moderation, right? With anything. I think you agree with that. We've just got to make sure that we just don't overkill anything, and whatnot. And we put our phone on charge and we switch it off, don't we, Amit?
Yeah, I think a bit of mindless distraction is not a bad thing, but it's not always the right thing at the right time. Like if the thing becomes a habit and you just your go-to for a quick fix, then I think that this is the thing. If you become too attached to one thing, then that's where the dependency forms, and that's where the challenge is. But I think we blanket demonize everything, and I think that's not the case. Like you said, right? It could be something very simple that you like, hey, hang on a minute. If you want to go out and just stretch and do yoga in the sunshine for 10 minutes or outdoors, great, go do that, right? You go for a walk, take your dog for a walk. I don't know about you, right? But I'm a fidgeter. So whenever I'm doing these things, I always have a fidget cube in my hand, right? It distracts my body so I can focus, right? Because I'm a fidgeter, so I need it. I need it to just distract myself so I can actually genuinely pay attention. But I love playing with it. I've always got my little Rubik's Cube on my desk, my juggling balls and things like that. Do you know what I mean? Right? I love a little distraction. I find it fun. But there is power in these little things, and I love what you said. Right? It's so simple. Anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Water,
Exactly. And that's why I didn't want to. We could have had a big discussion, isn't it, about the benefits of meditation and visualization, or doing this technique and doing that. But you know what? There's a lot of that getting pushed out all the time. Let's just keep it so simple, bare simple, because ideally you'd want someone to walk away from this session thinking, I can actually literally just do that without much effort and without much thought, because we're just doing too much of that, aren't we? We're trying so hard. We're doing a lot of thinking. We want to just ease up on that a little bit and just, take the stress out of life, isn't it? And just sort of sail through a little bit more. So yeah, simple and basic.
Absolutely, yeah. And like my wife and I getting a little doggy next week, right? But anyway, like we go for a walk every morning, pretty much. Most, like 95% of the time, we'll go for a nice walk early in the morning. Usually we leave the house by 6:30. It's where the air is clearer, it's fresh. I actually like cold, crisp mornings like what it was today. It was like 1 degree when we left today, but I love it because it was clean and fresh. And then I know the names of all the dogs that are in my area, but not the dog owners. So I just play with all the dogs whenever we go out and say hello to them. They're all my friends. And today we saw this one guy, his name's Dustin. He's got an Alsatian called Sawyer, and he's just honestly, like I was walking towards him. He was coming towards me. It's about 50 yards away. The dog saw me, started running towards me, dragging me over the lawn. Like that gives me so much joy. Like that really just lifts me like higher and higher. So I'm not afraid to do all the things that I love to do, and I just go and friggin' do it no matter what anyone else says. And there is so much power in that, just being able to just exercise your own power of choice, power of volition, and of course your own personal power as well.
Absolutely. And do you know what? Just sort of wrapping, like you said, on that note, and you're comfortable in saying that, I'll do what I want to make myself feel good. Not all of us are at that point, are we? We're not in that place where we can do that. What I want to just share to everybody is that there's been times where I wasn't in that place, and there's been times where Amit hasn't been in that place. But you know what? We consciously chose to want to feel better because we believed we deserved it. And so do you. Each and every one of us deserves to feel happy. We're allowed to feel happy whenever we want to feel happy. I think Laurie said, Amit, isn't it? A lot of people sometimes are waiting for someone else to give them permission. It shouldn't be that. But for today, Amit and I are saying, permit yourself to just smile and do whatever you want, okay? Feel good and just know that it's okay to feel good.
And you just heard it from two of the highest sources of authority you could possibly get.
Do you know, I just realized if somebody was trying to read our names, Amit, Omita and Amit, Amit and Omita, if they said it fast, repeated it, it's going to say, honestly, I was doing it before the session. I was giggling my head off. My daughter's like, Mom, what are you doing? I said, nothing. I'm just laughing because I feel like laughing. But yeah, a little trick to make people laugh is after this session finishes, say it, Amit and Omita, say it fast and see what word or sentence you come up with.
I couldn't even do it once. So what in terms of parting questions, one main one for you, which is in terms of what legacy you would like to leave before your time is up in this physical form and you go on to your next journey. What wonderful achievement in terms of your own personal legacy would you like to have left on this world? And message you would have shared, you'd like to share with everyone as much, as far and wide reaching as possible? What would it be?
Ooh, what a powerful question. I think one thing I think I'd definitely like to share, given my journey as a single mom for 14 years, and perhaps I kept myself in a state of isolation for quite a while. Some might say it was too long. But I had to feel whole again in my life. I had to overcome, all the issues I'd gone through in my mind, my lack of self-worth, my lack of self-confidence, and the difficult times I went through. One thing I'd like to say now, and I think COVID has definitely brought it to everybody's attention, is that, you know what? We're all in this together. Our lives are all connected in some shape or form to one another. And as much as we sometimes think, I did this on my own, or do you know what? This is what I'm here to do. You're not really, because there's always been someone somewhere, isn't it, that's contributed to you being where you are at that moment in time. So one sort of part of legacy that I'd love to see is having contributed towards more global oneness, reminding ourselves that, we are here for one another. We are here to uplift one another, because I sincerely believe each day that when I have the opportunity to uplift another, I honestly feel uplifted within myself. So that is a shift and something I would love to know that I've consciously contributed towards. I don't know if there's anything else. That's such a powerful question. I'm going to be thinking about it later. I'm going to on another show when you're speaking to somebody else, just get on the chat and say, I've got an answer to your question. You have thought about it. But no, that's something that I would just love to know that I've been able to contribute towards, uplifting others and enabling them to feel whole and happy. And then contribute in making others feel just as whole and just as happy.
Beautiful. That's
looking forward to give me a hug. He's like, oh,
virtual hug.
Love, Omita.
No, I think that's a beautiful answer. It is a wonderful answer, and it's something I can think about a lot. And I've always said to people that, especially over the last 5 years, for me, one thing is that I want to be able to have a powerful impact on every living soul, and that includes humans or otherwise. We're in such a tiny blue planet, and that kind of was a big influence in my decision to, say, for example, go vegan, because I believe that I can't. How could I ever cause harm to anything else, especially animals? I love animals, right? So even in that respect, by making that choice, I'm having that impact. So it's it's a thing for me. I think it's a great question to always end on. But obviously, the last question, of course, now, if people want to reach out to you and connect with you, where's the best place for them to connect, perhaps even have a conversation with you, or just find you on social media? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, well, just with my name, on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and I'm on Instagram as well. I'm just remembering I'm quite new to Instagram. So you can just type in and connect with me, Omita Gaikwad, and I would be more than happy to have a chat, answer some questions, or just connect with more phenomenal human beings and learn more about myself and just how wonderful this world is.
Well, there we go, folks. You heard it here, so you can connect with her, and she's looking forward to having your conversation as well. Let's give her a number out.
But Amit, I just want to say thank you so much, first of all, for, like you said, inviting me onto this wonderful podcast. And like you said, you just shared a little bit more about yourself. You're somebody who's being a true global citizen. I'm like yourself. I'm almost there transitioning to the world of veganism. for, like you said, for two reasons, for personal health reasons as well as planetary reasons. And you know what, the fact that you are being that change, and then, like you said, you're just aspiring to emanate it more and more and more. So do you know what, hats off to you, respect to you from where, and like I said, I don't even know your full story, but I feel you. And I think that transparency and openness that you actually bring is what just makes everybody else feel so much more connectivity with you, and this is what people want to know. They want to know that we can relate to one another, isn't it? That, although you may be somewhere feeling or be doing something else, you're not that far away, etc., as a human being. So thank you for being you.
Ah, that's lovely. Thank you. I appreciate that. Do you want to know something really funny as well, just before we go? So our dog is going to be a vegan dog as well. Now, there's a lot of people out there, dogs can't be vegan. Actually, they can thrive on a vegan diet. So, so he's going to be a vegan dog as well. So we're looking forward to just seeing how that goes. But he's going to be the most loved dog in the world. We've got like beds all over the house. He's going to be so pampered. He's a he, but he's going to be like treated like a little princess. I swear to God. I swear to God, my wife's going to put a bow on his head or something. So.
So he's a puppy that you're going to get, or
yeah,
do you know?
We're getting him on Monday, and we're just so excited. We can't even contain ourselves right now as well.
Yeah, so you couldn't tell, could you? You just got puppy eyes yourself at the moment.
We're just so excited. Can't wait to get him. So even next week, I blanked out my calendar so I could just spend a week with him, training him up, getting point training. I've even got my little training clickers and things like that to help and stuff.
You know what I was going to say, because dogs are actually very pure beings, and they're very sensitive to fear and anger, and they always take us more to sort of positive vibrations. I'm going to ask a question. I would love to ask your dog this question in a week or whatnot. Your dog will take you away more from your digital devices, right? Because you're going to have to do more with the dog. But are you going to get your dog a phone? That's what I want to know. See, now, like you said, the dog's coming. Yeah, the dog's coming into your life for a reason. But now let's see what shift happens here with puppy power.
Amita, what can I say? I think he's going to end up being a social media star. So let's see. No. He could get me on my phone even more. Who knows? But.
Oh, bless. Well, anyway, I wish you and Doggy, much, much, much happiness in what's to come. And you know what? Without a doubt, I'm sure you will. You're pretty much probably already out there, Amit, with your reach and expansion. But I'm sure you're just going to just keep flying and lifting many people.
Thank you so much. And lovely comment there from Vanda, which is so sweet and a lovely conversation. Well, thank you, Vanda. So it's a pleasure having you aboard. And to everyone who's been watching or is going to be watching or listening, you've been listening to the Feel Inspired podcast with me, Amit Sodha, and my lovely, lovely guest, Omita Gaikwad. And so you can connect with her. What I will do is later on down the line, as in later this evening or first thing tomorrow, you'll find all the links that you can connect with me on or Omita on as well. So you can reach out to us. And of course, you can listen back as well anywhere and re-listen, because I think this has been for me one of my favorite episodes now so far. And so honestly, and I say that genuinely, like I've really enjoyed this conversation. And
Absolutely.
And you know how they always say it takes no one, right? So but it's true. Like honestly, I think it just comes across in your words just how natural and how authentic you are and how much you believe in and live what you say. And I'm a firm believer in that as well, and living what I teach. And I won't say anything to anyone unless I've mastered it myself. I always tell people the story of Gandhi and the sugar story. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but for me, it's an important thing. So, but there we go. Wanted to end on that beautiful note. So thank you, Omita, and thank you to everyone as well. And I will see you all on the next episode. So thank you again.
Thank you. Stay safe. Stay well, everybody.
Stay with me, Omita. We're going to end the broadcast. Here we go.